Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will everyone join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up on the general session is the approval of the April 8th regular meeting minutes.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion on those? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are approved. Next, we have approval of the April 16th board meeting minutes.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are approved. I'll move the approval of the CSE, CPSC recommendations.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Those are approved. Next, we're up to public comment. Anyone want to welcome and introduce themselves?
I'm good for that.
Okay. Okay, discussion items. So last Wednesday we met for the final budget discussions in order to adopt the 25-26 budget, which is tonight that we'll present to our voters. Do you want to have the budget presentation update from Meg now? Is that on our...
You can have any discussion relating to it.
Okay.
It's on for approval later, so.
Okay.
Meg, I don't think nothing
Yeah,
has
presentation or
changed
anything?
since last week.
There's supposed to be a rumor that they're gonna actually be close to a vote, maybe tomorrow or Thursday?
Which would be a day or two late for us to make our adoption, but so I think we're going to go ahead with what Meg presented to us last week.
Not just, when I heard that today, I thought that was, situation typical. So.
Well, at least we can run live projections before the budget hearing, but should have better data that way. So our budget hearing will be on Tuesday, May 6th at 6 p.m. along with our regular business meeting. And our annual meeting and budget vote will take place at the bus garage on Tuesday, May 20th, between the hours of noon to 8 p.m. So notice that is a 1 hour difference than what we've had in the past. So it's noon to 8 p.m. and that'll be a closing time for the polls this year. Just as an FYI, the district issued our RFP for UPK program services for the 25-26 school year with an option to extend for an additional 5 years for a total of 6 years. We did not receive any responses, so any other input we'd like to have on that, any discussion?
No, nothing to add. It's regulatory to put it out and to notify it publicly.
I find no responses, huh?
Well, there's not, you have to have the right organization to be able to do it, to run a UPK program, and really other than Head Start that has their own organization, and then the Healthy Kids, there's not really anybody else has that capacity in our area outside of the school district.
Curriculum committee met last Wednesday.
Yep, I can give you a summary of some of the stuff that we discussed. Attached is the agenda. Dr. McDonald can correct me if I get anything wrong, since my other two committee members aren't here to add.
I got your back, Tammy.
All right, thank you, Mike. So part of our curriculum committee items that we need to review as needed are textbooks, so selection and approval of textbooks. So two of them were presented the high school social studies department. So Mr. Meck was there and just told us the need to have new textbook for Global 1 and 2, which is for 9th and 10th grade. Just wanted to note that this will be replacing textbooks that are from 2008, so definitely needed. So that's 75 new textbooks for Mr. Meck and Mr. Wood to use, along with there'll be some extras as well. And then Mr. Schofield and Miss Neri were in attendance for the high school math department regarding the purchase of geometry textbooks. And these textbooks will meet the next generation learning standards. Then we talked about electives, which is another thing that we discuss usually during our spring meeting. Mr. Loomis and Mr. Ashlaw were in attendance and discussed the list of new electives that we're going to have in the high school for the 25-26 academic year. Some of them of interest that I found interesting that I made note of was college statistics, construction math, farm to fork, and then also what they're calling a student leadership is something that I thought has been necessary. So things like resume building and also interview skills, and I call it like a life skills type class, so I'm excited to see that we're offering that. And also Mr. Hoover was there and talked about the new electives for middle school for next year, so some creative writing, a few things that I found were really kind of neat: fantasy football, coding and robotics, digital media and photography. And they're really going to encourage our middle school students to limit the amount of academic labs that they have, which I think is beneficial. The less free time that they have is probably a lot better. And then the question was asked, just out of curiosity, like how many students do we need in order to keep these electives? So we'd like to target at least 5 or 6 students, but if there's something that we are trying to grow, for example, like the student leadership class, we would just say, even 3 students would be necessary to hold those classes. Then we talked about our summer program. So again, we're going to offer at the Townsend School. Miss Hector was there and discussed what we're going to be doing at the Townsend School this year. The best part about this is the last couple of years we haven't been able to have summer school at the Townsend School. It's been over here because of all of the construction we had going on, so they're really happy to be able to be back in their own building for the summer. It's going to be a 4-week program again in July for students that need additional help with reading and math, and approximately 1.5 hours of instruction per the day. And then an added benefit this year is they're going to offer Healthy Kids is going to be there, and we're going to make childcare available for those students that might need it. Another thing that we might be able to provide is transportation. Is also a possibility this year because we have to transport some other students in, so we might be able to do that for Townsend School, so that's really exciting. Mr. Hoover talked about the middle school summer program. So again, the middle school skills program that basically matches students that need additional help with teachers, and then also the Crush Connects, which is a really beneficial program for our middle school and high school age students during the summer. They do all kinds of fun activities. If you remember, they go on field trips and just stay connected for the summer. So I've reported out on that usually in the fall, and I think it's a really nice program. Summer school for the high school. So again, we are very lucky that we have our teachers here that are willing to teach summer school here at the high school for our students that need to have that credit recovery. Right, as of last week, we were just missing a math instructor. And then the other thing that we talked about was driver education for the summer. Then some...
that one, you want to hit on that. I like looking at potentially
2, right?
2. And have it be opposite times so that there's conflicts, we'll be able to get even more students through. Because we have one of our own instructors who's interested, and then if we can continue with with our previous instructors from Downsville, then we can run 2 sets. So, see what happens.
So that's something that we've expressed a need for many years, so it's really great that they're gonna be offering that. Then we had some discussion regarding AI, and Mr. Loomis told us that we don't currently have specific courses that related to AI, but the high school English department is probably the area that AI would impact the most. Currently, we're doing some data gathering. We're in data gathering phase with BOCES. The elementary school teachers are currently testing out Magic School, and the high school English teachers are using GIF IT as a teaching aid tool. And then there's plans to review during the May 6th ILT meeting for budget and cost considerations. Is there anything else you wanted to add with that?
Just that, if you recall, Kevin and Greg on the policy meeting, this is one of the policies that's left out there that we don't have yet. And we're waiting to gather information on where we were, when we're gonna start utilizing it to put one in place. We're gonna be utilizing it and are utilizing it as adults enough that we definitely wanna get that policy in place by the end of the year, or at least move it forward. So, we'll do that.
Then we also had a discussion about semestering versus traditional scheduling. So we talked about this also last year about this time, but also in coordination with the regionalization study that's also happening right now. The Walton admin has been asked to perform a study comparing semester scheduling with traditional scheduling and just the differences between them, benefits, and where that all lines up. And then we also had some discussion over distance learning. So right now we're putting together a permanent distance learning classroom in the library, which is funded with a technology grant. And then we'll also have a mobile distance learning classroom, and this gives Walton students the ability to receive associate's degree with TC3. Also, we could possibly open this up to other schools in the area if we have classes that other schools might be interested in, and that type of thing. And then also, did you want to add anything with that, Mike?
No, this is part of the Russ grant, if you recall. We received one through ONC. We held off because that would have been purchasing a new service. And we talked about the last few years, but budget really didn't allow. And then, so we put in for a second one through DCMO. We received that one as well. Our demographics work very well for Russ grant. The size of our district and our economically disadvantaged makes us score very high. And so what we did with this one is we did a permanent and a mobile, as Tammy was stating. The mobile is literally a cart that can move. We're gonna have it permanently housed in a space, but it could be moved and be versatile if needed. So that's ability for 2 classrooms, depending on what they do, send and receive, so it can grow. And your incoming superintendent is well versed in distance learning. Franklin relies on it very heavily, and her experience at ONC BOCES in the ISS department will give her some real good insight. So I'm excited to see where that goes. It'll truly benefit our kids.
And then the last item that we had for discussion was our committee charter. We kind of ran out of time with our meeting, so we may need to have a summer meeting to discuss that a little bit further.
So just one thing to add, I'll add now instead of later, the textbook selection. If you recall, part of our policy is that we have our inventory that was approved, and it stays approved and doesn't change until we have exactly what we have now. So now that that's been presented, before the end of this year, I will update that with the new details. I'll get the new details in these textbooks, and that'll come forward as an updated textbook inventory for you to approve. And then you'll have your current inventory. If you recall, it can't be adjusted without your review and without it coming through the committee. So We're just following, this is the first time we've had to do it since we put the policy in place. So, we'll make sure those steps get taken. And, so one of the meetings in probably June, we'll have that textbook inventory updated for you. Okay?
Good.
Pretty good memory, Tammy. That was a lot.
Thank you, Tammy.
That's why I took notes. I don't have that good.
Okay, next we have correspondence,
We do not have anything.
additions to the agenda.
We do not have any additions, however, excuse me, today we updated new business items 8I and 8J. Both of those are relating to transportation bid awards. One is for the school year and one is for the summer. We added an additional sentence regarding awarding a contract for standby services. So that is in the agenda.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, next we have our consent agenda. Consisting of financial reports, transfer of funds, amending scholarships, personnel unpaid leave of absences, personnel appointments, and personnel approvals. Anyone want to pull any of those agenda items for discussion? Any highlights on those?
Not that I have.
Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve it.
A second.
Motion second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is carried. And now we are up to new business. First, we have accepting donations with sincere appreciation. $1,000 from NYSER to the Walton Central School District to fund the year-end employee luncheon, and $525 from CNS Engineers to the Walton Central School District to fund the end-of-year employee luncheon.
I'll make the motion to accept it.
Second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Next, we have for adoption the 25-26 budget. Any discussion on that?
I'll make the motion to accept it.
Second.
Motion to adopt. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? It's carried. We are up to the adoption of the 25-26 property tax report card.
I'll make the motion to accept it.
I'll second.
Motion second. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That is adopted. Next, we have the setting of our 25-26 school year monthly meetings of the Walton Board of Ed.
I'll make the motion.
I'll
I'll
second.
Okay, motion second. Any further discussion on those? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. Next, we start our series of contracts. I'll make the motion to fund the Westbrook contract 25-26 through 27-28.
I'll accept it. Second it, sorry.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's funded. Next, we have the funding of the transportation policy 25-26 through 27-28.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's funded. Now we have the funding of the administrative group contracts 25-26 through 28-29.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is carried. Next, we have the awarding of the independent audit services bid and approve the contract.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion on that? I just want to add that BOCES put that out for us, and I appreciate the work behind that as a collaborative between all the schools. It does, I believe, get you better bids, and so I do appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is awarded. This is I, which was amended, the award of the transportation contract, bid and approve.
I'll make the motion.
A second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That is awarded. And then J, we have the award of the summer transportation contract bid and approval of the contract.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Keep it up okay?
Mhm.
Okay. Next, we have the personnel appointments.
Another Walton graduate.
Stanley Smith, Assistant Building Mechanic, Elizabeth Ward, Custodial Worker, and Kimberly Huntress, Occupational Therapist.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are appointed. And next we're up to our policy review. Mr. Verweer's not here, so I'll have to read those to you. Just for our annual review for our policies, please look at 1050 annual district election and budget vote policy and 1120 school district records. Next, we have our second reading of 2245 ex officiato, student member of the board for adoption. Any discussion on that? I think we let that go as long as we could to make sure there were no hiccups between the other districts, and now it's time to
Mm-hmm.
get our policy in place, so ahead of next year's schedule. I'll make a motion for adoption.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is carried. And finally, we are up to administrative remarks.
So, obviously, our principals aren't here this week. Spring break, we had them come to the last meeting, but we kept the reporting in normal cycle.
Yep.
Just the important highlight, I think, would be our graduating class cohort information that Mr. Loomis put in his report. Important to note that it looks like graduation rate will be 85% as when the state gets to their reporting on this. And if you remember, cohort enrollment is from the students from the time they enter 9th grade, and they tracks them through graduation. So out of this group, 67 were initially enrolled, and we had 1 early graduate and 9 that dropped out. So 57 currently enrolled, so it should be an 85% graduation rate. And then, go ahead.
Are any of those 9 moved on to other schools in the last year, or are they all through our building?
If they went to other schools, they wouldn't be listed. They'd be transferred
Transferred.
in-state or out-of-state, and they don't count as a dropout. So a dropout, now some of those could be, they moved, and we never got indicated. Sometimes it'll happen out-of-state. In New York State, we're fine, because it's all, their student numbers follow them. But if somebody was to go to Virginia, and they took their records, sometimes parents will get the records in an envelope, leave, and they'll turn in, so they don't have to do records request. If somebody goes to another school and they do records requests and that school contacts us, we know where they're from, then we can indicate and code it, and then it won't be in there as such. So it's certainly not a fail-proof method. But, this is also, if you recall, if you think about this group, it's 2025. You take 4 years ago, when they entered ninth grade, right around COVID time, we saw some very high inflated graduation rates because of all of the, I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna be politically correct, the gifting of credits and passing of Regents exams, even after we came back in full instruction. Which, for Walton, with how we ran COVID, I wish they hadn't done. And our high school teachers advocated on behalf of students, saying, they don't need this, we're fine, let's go. Well, when they pulled all that safety net away, we had some students really get shocked with it and get hurt with it. That's the problem with safety nets. If they're not truly needed, sometimes it can cause harm later. So I've got a feeling that out of that 9, there's a few of them that are COVID victims, I like to say, with this process. Not all of them.
Does that
Some
track
are natural
homeschooling?
dropouts. What's that?
Is that homeschooling, ones that are pulled to homeschooling? No.
No, if they go to homeschooling, they're not listed as a dropout.
Okay.
They actually get coded as transferring to homeschool.
Okay.
So.
There's no way of following up with those 9? Is it worth the effort?
Yeah, we know who they are and the reasons behind it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're not thinking these are just not a matter of paperwork being turned in? Okay.
No, it doesn't sound it with them, but it can happen at times, so.
Yep.
But it sounds like with these, what's nice is some of the state reporting, just for the board's information. If you recall, you may not recall this, or Jake, you may not have seen this, but there's a cohort report. If you remember that long report I showed you before, and there's hyperlinks. So when you got hyperlinks in there's like dropout, it'll say 9, like right now, it'll say 9, it's got hyperlink. You click on that, and it'll give you your list of kids. So then you can track and go back to, student services and have that conversation, which is something I do routinely with folks that and the principals know. Now that they know that's there, it's a principal's best friend. It's got everything, every test, everything on there, demographics, disabilities. You click on a hyperlink and you just mine right down to the info. So there's not much that's not transparent in the data. So, and in the future, if that's something that in a former district, one of my roles, one of the reports that I did provide to the board confidentially was a graduation rate report that had the details of the dropouts, not by name, but the reason and cause behind it. So if that's something the board is interested in with those 9, we can mine down and have those details, and that could be provided in a confidential report to the board in the future. So if that's something you want annually, I can add that into the high school for the principal to produce.
It's not a bad idea.
No.
You like that idea?
Yeah, it just gives you a little bit of an idea, just trying to double check that nobody got lost through the cracks
Yep.
of something, I mean. And if I'm following this absolutely correctly, with this starting at the 9th grade, if somebody left school 10th grade, it's gonna reflect in their graduating year of 2025.
Yes.
It's not, these are not just quote unquote seniors of this year. This number is over the course of the last 4 years.
Correct.
Well, from, yeah.
For the time
3
they
years.
turn 16, for the year after, they gotta finish the year that they're 16 within. From that point on, students can drop. Now, sometimes they're not building credits, they're still a 9th grader, and they haven't built any credits. They turn 16 in that year, they drop out and they move on, go to work or go to GED or go to whatever they're gonna go to. So, but we can absolutely capture that annually. So I got that note. Boy state, girl state is listed here.
Yeah, I was gonna highlight that.
Go ahead.
I like that. I formerly went to Boys State, so it's nice. Adeline Strub is attending the Empire State Girls State, and Maddox Little will be attending Boys State this year, and it'll be held in SUNY Morrisville from June 28th to July 3rd. So, and then SUNY Brockport, June 30th to July 6th for Girls State. So, awesome. Congratulations.
Yep. On my end, just a couple things. I'm working on, at the last board meeting, the board gave me directive on the EPC with the solar. working on that process. I actually have a meeting tomorrow, meeting yesterday with, Montante, the group that we had our presentations from. And I have a meeting scheduled tomorrow, with Dan Whalen, to start getting the finite details down, with that, and turn it into a project timeline document, and I'll bring that forward to the board. What we need to do. I'm kind of learning as I go with this one. EPC for solar is not something that's a typical process, you know, that you go through. So gonna get the leadership from our architects. Capital outlay, we're still, just got notified today that they're still not expecting, about 3 weeks from now, they're expecting the shipment. So it's gonna be probably that last 2 weeks of June to get those sound panels up right under the window that Meg needs for the financing of that project. So it will get done, but it's probably gonna be right down to the wire. We don't have any updates on our the bus preliminary reporting. We don't have that detail back. When that comes back, we'll pull the internal meeting and start working through that, and then bring that forward to the board as well, as far as the final costing of what that will be projected to be. And just a teacher vacancy update, I'm not expecting any gaps. The principals are moving along, mainly, I think middle school solid, high school and elementary are moving along very well. I've got a number of meetings next week, I think 5 interviews next week.
4 or 5.
4 or 5 with me. So you'll have a number of them coming to you for approval the next meeting, and it's moving along well. They're doing an excellent job. The teachers are you know, we've got hiring committees with teachers involved, departments involved, and from the initial review, we've got a nice group coming in. If everything goes well with this next round with me. So just to give you that update. That's all I got.
One quick,
FFA Awards Banquet, we've been invited to that. It's Wednesday, June 11th in the high school cafeteria at 5 p.m. And we need to RSVP by May 23rd. So
I'll plan on being there.
I'm hoping to be there as well.
I'll send a message to Kelly.
one quick question for you regarding the student board member. Is that, you think will be in place for July, or is that something we're looking at August or
It has to
September?
be by regulation, and I haven't missed one yet, so
Okay,
even though I'm not gonna be here to find out whether it is, no, it'll be,
by the July.
that process is set. Tammy and Greg are gonna interview, with Art, and I'm hoping Teresa will be available to interview with the group. If not, I will, and, that's being coordinated as we speak. So the high school has been going through their process of, selection criteria, who's eligible, and then into the teacher recommendation, who the teachers would recommend with the characteristics, and then that'll filter down to Mr. Loomis, and that's who could be given the opportunity to apply. So
Those interviews, those applications are due by May 1st from the either 11th or 12th grade students, so they've been brought up to speed with it. And again, those applications are due by May 1st, and interviews will shortly follow after that.
I seen that, and I was assuming we were talking for the July reorg meeting that would be a
yeah,
setting seat, but I was,
yeah, by law, right? Now it's actually law, right?
Yeah.
So it has to be in place
Good
for
deal.
that meeting for the start of the year. So, and we're in the process, the calendar's working terrific, and the high school's been a great, they're processing it very well. That's all I got.
No need for an exec?
No, sir.
All right, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Ah,
That's like it.
Toss a coin. All those in favor to adjourn signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is carried.